Welcome to Spun Out Live, coming to you from Crow Park in front of our very vocal, very opinionated audience. We didn't even rehearse that. Amazing. I'm Stephen Byrne, in case you don't know.
And I'm Emily Phelan, and we've got a jam-packed show for you tonight full of discussion, interaction and musical entertainment, all brought to you by over 100 volunteers.
And of course, it's all in celebration of the brand new, improved and absolutely amazing SpunOut.ie. And because of that, we'll be online all throughout the show, looking for your opinions on everything that we're discussing tonight. So be on Twitter with the hashtag SpunOutLive. Keep tweeting us all about the topics. We're going to be talking about sexual health. We're going to be talking about bullying, our relationship with alcohol growing up. We'll also be talking to YouTuber Bri BR, all about a special video that he made that had a significance with his audience and many of a new audience that he found through that video.
Sounds very good. And we've got Choice-nominated Soak in with us, and she's going to be singing her song, Sea Creatures. So very excited. Here we go. Well, for some of you, you may not be wondering, what is Spun Out and what do we do? Well, it's really hard to explain because we do a lot of things, really. So here's something that may just make it that bit clearer.
Hi, my name is Carmel.
My name is Owen Dillon.
My name is Mairead.
My name is Pierce.
Hi, my name is Bevan Winjudge.
My name is Sarah McCusack.
My name is Laura Gaynor.
I have been contributing articles.
I write articles.
I write articles.
I've contributed articles.
I've written articles.
I write articles.
And I write articles for SpunOut.
An important part of SpunOut.ie is to give a voice to young people so that they can share their story and let others realise that they're not alone. One of the big reasons for doing the redesign was to make our content more accessible to young people, to make people want to stay on the site for longer and to just deliver a better service so that people were proud to be published and to read other people's experiences online.
We get lots of content submitted by young people, and I would work with them to help them use their voice and get their opinion out there. The fact-check articles are proofed by professionals in their relevant field, and before they get the fact-check logo, they would go through that editing by myself and editing from the relevant professional, and then they're proofed by young people.
Hi, I'm Jason. I'm the web person. The process began ages and ages ago. We decided we need to overhaul the whole site. So that involved a lot of planning and preparation because the site is huge because there's so much content on it. There's about 7,000 lines of code in the CSS file that decides what the site looks like. So that was fun. And it was built in conjunction with the Spun Out action panel. They consulted me in the process, so I got a lot of feedback off of them on how the design was going and how the functionality was going, how the sections of the site were broken down. I don't think it's much as about the building of the site, it's just about what the site facilitates people to do, to showcase their work, and that's kind of that was the objective.
The SpunOut.ie action panel is the focus and the central point of everything that SpunOut does. It leads SpunOut in terms of its campaign areas, it advises us in terms of our content, in terms of how we should look, how we should be. It's a group of 17 young people, and it's for any youth organisations, it's youth participation is the key. And for us in SpunOut, it ensures that young people's voices and opinions are at the heart of everything that we do.
Hopefully that clears up a couple of things for you guys. Now it's time for our first panel. It's all about something that can affect our relationships and both our physical and mental health. Something that we have to discover. We all have to discover growing up, and we all discover it in somewhat different ways. It's sex.
You can't get pregnant if you have sex standing up using 2 condoms and underwater. Well, not if you believe the playground education where a lot of us learned about sex. And while it's no longer a taboo subject in Ireland, you still wouldn't talk to your friends about your STIs. With body image, education, stigma, infections, and not forgetting porn, it's a lot to take in. So let's talk about sex.
I'm joined by 3 people. I loved the reaction when I said sex for the first time. Everyone, Nice to see we never lose that growing up. I'm joined here by three people. Grace Willent, who's part of the Irish Family Planning Association. Kelly O'Brien, who was the former editor of Unfuckle. It was University of Limerick.
Yes.
Yeah. And also, some people might recognise him, John Buckley from SpunOut.ie, and also Generation Sex, which was on RTE. Kelly, I'm going to open with you and ask you, I guess, the relationship of college students towards sex. Is it casual, and is that a bad thing?
I think it is casual to some extent. I mean, a lot of it is to do with second level education. When they come into college, obviously their first years, a lot of them is their first time away from home, and they experience this kind of freedom that they haven't had before. And there is some pressure there from their peers to do with sex and sexual health and that kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, it is kind of, it's a thing that they kind of go a bit mad now, and I'm generalizing wildly here, but I do think a lot of it is to do with secondary education, and if they were educated better in second level, we wouldn't see a lot of the problems.
That's something that you feel quite passionately about, Grace. When do you think it should start? I mean, at what age? Because secondary school starts when you're 12 years old. Should that be when it, or should it even go further back into primary school?
I mean, the World Health Organization, I think, has issued guidelines on sexuality education going from primary to secondary school. Now, this would be age-appropriate sexuality education, so clearly the content of delivery changes depending on the age and the capacity of the young person. But as you were saying, like, comprehensive sexuality education is absolutely crucial. And, we heard a few myths in that clip. And really the only thing that's going to bust these myths
were any of them true?
None of them were true.
Oh, okay.
Not the underwater or the 2 condoms. They're not effective forms of contraception. But the only thing that's going to bust these myths is if young people have access to comprehensive sexuality education that is evidence-based and that is implemented on a national level. I know, if I can just add one thing, I know there was a study from the Crisis Pregnancy Agency which found that young people in Ireland felt that the sex education they got was too little too late. And there was further studies from the Department of Education or the Department of Health showing that a lot of teachers felt uncomfortable with delivering the relationship sexuality education aspect of the SPHE program to their students. And I think we really need a policy framework and programs which recognize that discomfort of teachers and discomfort about talking about sex to young people doesn't actually trump the right of those young people to their well-being and to the information they need to make responsible decisions.
And what have you learned, John, I guess, working with Spun.ie, like working with kids, what have you learned, I guess, from that experience?
I've learned that young people are having sex.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
And what I've also learned is where young people are getting their information on sex. Their information is coming from peers, and their information is coming from more and more online sources. So that information that they're getting in school isn't always held in the highest regard for a number of reasons. So we need to get on top of where information is coming from to make sure it's of the highest quality possible. But also to make sure the information is holistic. We learn about how to not get pregnant or how to not get an STI, but we don't learn about the ins and outs of sexual identity. We don't learn the ins and outs of relationships and the impact of sex on our mental health and other aspects of our well-being.
That affects us when we come into relationships then for the first time. I guess there can be a fear and almost a pressure to have sex straight away. Should that be a conversation that you have going into a relationship with someone straight away, even at a young age when you're 16, 17, 18?
Well, I suppose the thing is to remember that the age of consent in Ireland for sex is 17, so you can't consent to sex under 17. So that's important
I'm not consenting to it, I swear.
It's important to note. I think that it's important to have conversations in relationships and to be open about sex, but we need to facilitate that in the environment and with the kind of information that we talk about and we provide to young people. We need to look at peer education in terms of sex as well. There's some good evidence emerging on the impact of the peer education aspect of it as well. So we need to look at alternatives, or else young people are going to get misinformation from a variety of different sources, which is a real danger.
And we're talking about things like sexual health, STDs, all that sort of stuff. I mean, how often should people get checked, and how do you break down I guess it's not really a taboo, but how do you actually break down the barrier to actually get them to go and not be embarrassed about showing up and getting themselves checked?
I can take that one if you like. I suppose there's a couple of things involved. One is cost, €150 kind of it costs to get a full STI
then they
screening.
Have to go to their parents, or if they can't afford that, and that could be a further embarrassment for them.
Sure. Some colleges do great programs where they do free screening, and there's other programs around the country that do free screenings too. I suppose it's about breaking down the conversations where it's not getting checked, I think I might have an STD, that it's a screening that's proactive screening rather than reactive as well, that if you are having multiple sexual partners that you would get screened at,
every 6 months or so as a kind of a rite of passage to do to make sure you're safe. And that, we've seen a huge decrease in the number of teenage pregnancies since 1996, but we've seen an increase in the number of STI notifications. So there's something happening there that we need to look at in a real way to try and solve that issue.
And Kelly, coming from college life, I guess, how open are students about getting STDs? Like, I mean, do they talk to each other about it? I never went to college, so I don't know.
Not in regard to STDs,
Yeah.
probably not, but it is getting better. I mean, as you said before backstage, that it is a taboo subject that we're talking about today, but it's not really, it shouldn't be, no, but it has been in Ireland for a very long time, and I think it's great that we're coming out of it now. So just bringing it back to your question there, I do think they're talking about it more than they used to, but not as much as they probably should.
And great conversations, as we're talking about there. To get it into our education and all that sort of stuff, is that a conversation that we have to keep pushing the government for, or is it the Board of Management? How does that actually happen? How does something come about where that becomes a huge part of the curriculum as you wish it to?
Definitely. I think, from the IFPA standpoint, they've been pushing for a national sexual health strategy that we could be working towards on a national level. But I think, in the clip we just heard, it talked about youth participation, and I think it's really important that young people are active participants in the policy decisions, in the programs that are aimed at them and which impact their lives. And I hope, Spun Out can be used as a space where, you often hear young people reflecting on their experiences and their views and the gaps they identify in service provision, and to insist on being a part of the policy framework and the conversation around how services are provided to young people.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with us, guys, and being so open about it all and breaking down those taboos. John, Kelly, Grace, thank you so much. Now, something that I guess can be associated in a negative way with sex is alcohol and how the two go hand in hand. It's not always the best thing, as I said.
Well, after hearing all about alcohol and all the different substances, I'm here with Senator Catherine Riley. Hello. And you've decided to take a break from alcohol for a while to get a different perspective. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, I was approached by Spun Out to take part in the launch of initiative in Ireland, Hello Sunday Mornings, which involves, it's really a programme about having a better culture around alcohol. It's not an anti-drinking initiative, it's more about rediscovering life without alcohol, discovering yourself and re-evaluating your relationship with alcohol.
So
how are you finding it? Is it harder or easier than you expected?
It's not too bad. Now, I hadn't drank since January anyway, but like anything, when you're told you can't do something, that's when everything comes up. So I had a lot of events coming up in March, and I was out, obviously Paddy's Day came on Sunday, and you know, a lot of people were saying, you know, it's like Lent, you know, you can give it up, you can have it on Paddy's Day, but Paddy's Day was tough, not necessarily because, you know, everyone was out drinking. I had a bit of a tough day, relationship-wise, and that's, I think, reflection-wise, kind of made me realise that's when I turn to drink most, and that's when I have a bad relationship with alcohol, when, you know, when I kind of, things happen. So I decided, no, I'm not going to drink, and, you know, I figured if I can actually get over that, I can get over anything. So I was up at 6:30 Monday morning, reading the papers, tea, house clean.
And how have people reacted, like friends and family? Because I often notice, you know, in an Irish society, if you go out and you say, oh no, I'm not drinking, you know, people kind of look at you a bit weird. How have you found your friends and family react to it?
Well, my family are delighted. My mother thinks it's great. First time since I was 16 to go off drink. She thinks it's a great idea. My friends look at me. They're a bit apprehensive first. You know, why are you going off it? But, you know, they see that I'm still the same. I'm still going out. I'm still dancing. I'm still having the crack with them. I'm a taxi at the end of the night.
Definitely.
So
they
they
the
like
doll bar and everything, you know, have to keep far away. And do you still do, you know, the things you've done before? Do you still kind of have the same crack as you do before?
Yeah, I do. The first night I went out, now that was a very strange experience because I actually went out in Dublin as opposed to going home. So it was a whole new scene, loads of people I didn't know. So it was very kind of thrown in at the deep end. But I had a great weekend. I still went out. I was able to get up the next morning and actually do things. You know, I went running at the weekend. I'm doing camogie training. So, you know, my life is actually a lot better. I feel a lot better. I'm not tired. I'm not lethargic. It's
Were you apprehensive about starting it? You know, were you kind of, you know, are you very tempted? You know, were you sure that you could do it?
I was a bit apprehensive, more because I think it was a social element I was more afraid of. I recently joined a camogie team, and you know, there is a social element to having a new team, to being part of a new team, to try and socialise with them. So I was very apprehensive about that, and like, how would I interact with them? You know, would I be seen as dry? Would I be able to talk to them? But it actually was fine in the end, and you know, I'm able to relax and just talk to people.
And what would you say to other people who are kind of thinking of joining the craze?
I would definitely encourage anyone to do it. It's, as I said, it's not an anti-drinking initiative. It's just a personal kind of discovery. It's changing their drinking culture. And you know, when it was set up in Australia in 2010, over 10,000 people have taken part. And research after that shows that people aren't going back to the same drinking habits they had before, because you know, it's opened up a whole new life for them, because they see that, oh God, the hangover on Sunday morning isn't worth it. So saying hello to Sunday morning isn't exactly saying goodbye to Sunday night. You're still having the crack. You're still able to enjoy your experiences, but you just feel a lot better for it.
Good. So you definitely think it's kind of taught you a lot. You have a different
definitely
outlook.
And I don't think I'm necessarily going to go straight back on 1st of April, you know, down in shots. I think it's changed.
Fantastic. Well, thanks a million for coming in. If you want to find out more information, hellosundaymorning.ie. It's brilliant. I hope you've inspired a load of people at home to try that. Next up, we have a problem that may have affected you or someone you know.
It should all be very simple. Don't be mean to others. But the world isn't black and white, and every single day people get bullied. Physically, verbally, and online. Do all bullies know they're bullies, though? Am I a bully? Oh, it's just a bit of crack, just some harmless fun, no damage done. Yet there is a line there, and it is constantly being crossed. It's always relevant, ever-changing, and never-ending. But does it have to be? Bullying.
Bullying has become such a big part, and it's such a big discussion. That's why I think we had to have a panel in to discuss about it. Warren, you're 6th year and you ran an anti-bullying campaign. Grace, you're a member of the youth panel, Safer Internet Ireland. Patricia, privacy on Facebook you deal with, and Craig, Policy and Safety Officer at Glen. So very thank you for coming in, first of all, to speak with us. Now, just a general question. Do you think, you know, bullying is on the increase in Ireland?
Yeah, I think it's it is a big problem. I think you said before the clip there, it might have affected you or someone you know. I think you just need to ask anyone who's in school or who's been through school, that it is something that exists in every school around the country, and it's kind of happening at a time of critical milestones for students, around like junior cert and leaving cert. So I think it is a problem.
Yeah, and Warren, you did the 6-year bullying campaign. What did you discover when you did that?
Yeah, I think bullying online is just sort of an issue that's sort of swept under the carpet a lot for teens, sort of embarking on a new world, sort of leaving secondary school, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And our awareness campaign sort of was entitled "Let's Kick It Out." So we sort of just took the approach, a peer-led approach, to sort of saying, we've taught students to respond to a sort of a peer-led initiative into dealing with sort of the issues that they sort of go through every day in their schools, and sort of, as opposed to an authoritative figure sort of maybe teaching it during an SBAG class, that they realise that these lads at the top of their class, they're students like us, and they just want to see sort of bullying sort of decrease rather than increase.
And do you think the teachers are taking a role in, taking it on?
I think they definitely want to, but I don't think they sort of necessarily know how to, sort of, as opposed to sort of being sort of a friend, sort of listening. I think they sort of take the sort of full-on approach of sort of giving advice, this is what you should do, instead of just giving an opinion.
And Grace, you're more concerned with the kind of internet side of aspects. Do you think the internet's made out as bad as it's meant to be?
Well, I definitely think there's more pros than cons to the internet, but I think that new technologies have caused bullying to become more of an issue, because home is no longer a safe haven for people from school. So because you have your phone with you the whole time, you have it in your pocket, you go to bed with it. And when you go to bed with it, it never escapes your mind. So I think it can play on the victim's mind more so than traditional bullying could have.
And do you think the internet is just an avenue for what the bullying, that happens in school?
Well, from talking to students in my own school, I think it's just an extension of bullying from maybe within a classroom or in the hallway. So I think it's just a new medium for them to get at them, and because you don't have to be right beside them, it's a lot easier to get to them as well.
Yeah. And Patricia, the way, Facebook and Twitter, people say this is causing, more bullying in our country. How young are children creating Facebook accounts?
You have to be 13 years old to be on Facebook, and we enforce that policy quite heavily on our site.
Right. And, if someone is being bullied, what can they do? They have the report abuse button. What does that do? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I'm glad you just asked that question, because we don't want bullying on our platform. We have zero tolerance for it, and we want to make sure that people protect themselves. So whenever you come across something on Facebook, whether it's a photo or a post about you that you don't like, we ask you that you report it by clicking on the report button, and that enables you to bring the content to our attention, but also to bring the content to the attention of people around you. So you can use what we call social reporting to call out people in your environment for them to look into the content and provide you with advice. But also there's other features, such as the block feature, that enabled you to prevent interaction with somebody that you're not happy about interacting with.
So basically just to be more aware of what to do if you are being bullied. And Craig, yourself, you're involved with Glen. Could you tell us a bit about that as well?
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
Glen are the Gay Lesbian Equality Network. My role is Policing Community Safety Development Officer. So what we trying to aim to achieve is just a safer society for lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender people in society. So that would kind of revolve around homophobic bullying in schools, but also just like harassment in wider society. So recently enough, we engaged kind of with the government around their recently launched action plan on bullying. So that was specifically addressed homophobic and transphobic bullying in schools. So that was kind of something major for us, that they kind of, had specific provisions for it. And, so it's kind of been recognised as, an urgent problem that needs to be addressed. So
and do you think kind of homosexuality is changing in Ireland? The attitudes towards it?
I think, there's more of kind of an understanding and a recognition of it. It's not seen as much of a taboo subject. I know it's changed from when I was in school. There would have been kind of no mention. There would be no kind of education on it in, say, SPHE class or something like that. But now schools are equipped, and they're kind of taking part in campaigns. Belonged to a campaign last week. It was their Stand Up Awareness campaign. So there are these things now that there's kind of provisions and procedures there to say, okay, yeah, this is, is a problem, and we want to tackle it.
Yeah, speaking on that, Patricia, what are Safer Internet Ireland doing to, prevent this and stuff?
They're doing a great job. We work a lot with them.
Yeah.
They bring to our attention cases like when we've seen bullying through our platform, through apps like As.fm. They've been very good at letting us know what the trends are so that we can adapt our support model in Ireland. But they're also doing an amazing job at raising awareness. You'll see Simon Graham, their director, engaging in a lot of the events, and for Safer Internet Day they also launched a site that contains a lot of different information on different websites so that you know how to blog people or report abuse, etc. Because it's sometimes confusing because there's so many sites.
Yeah. And even Warren, yourself, with your campaign, what are you planning to do to kind of, you know, your future plans?
Sort of.
I hear you're interacting with other schools and everything.
Yeah, we sort of devised sort of a peer-led workshop that we took to sort of other local schools, and then we held a conference entitled Empowering Our Generation. So it's very much focused on getting students actively engaged in sort of tackling problems that affect them every day, and through that sort of raise awareness on how to be more sort of safe on the internet, I guess. Going back to what you said there about sort of being aware of those sort of devices that are there to help you, sort of the block button, that kind of thing. Some people might be a bit naive about them kind of things rather than not want to use them. So I think just raising awareness is key to sort of diminishing the effects.
Very good. Well, thank you all for coming in and speaking to us. It's great to get an insight. Next in the studio, we have Bri BR. He has been taking YouTube by storm with over 6 million video views and 125,000 subscribers, believe it or not. We're going to talk to him about one of his very special videos. But before that, let's take a look at this.
As a YouTuber, it's very easy to realise that most people that watch me and most people that watch other YouTubers are very, very young people. And the sad truth is that the majority of young people these days go through patches of being sad, feeling worthless, being incredibly depressed. I saw a young girl post on Twitter recently that she was depressed, and somebody replied, "You're 14, you don't even know what depression is." Depression doesn't come with a minimum age restriction. It's not a nightclub or a gig. Anyone can be depressed.
Bri, thank you so much for coming in.
Hello audience, by the way. Are you well? Because you're looking well.
Stop flirting with the audience, Bri.
Sorry.
You've got a girlfriend. You've got matching hairstyles and everything. Obviously, that video, why did you make it, and what, I guess, what was the experience that made you feel, oh, I need to say these things?
Basically, YouTube is my job. I make YouTube videos for a living, and I kind of make an arse of myself all the time. So I thought it'd be nice to do something good. Basically, my kind of what I do is I travel around doing live shows, and it was only this year that I noticed that about 1 in 5 kids in the queue at the sightings at the end have cuts on their arms from self-harm, which is obviously horrible to see. So that affected me hugely. So I knew I had to do something.
There's a very specific story as well on one of those occasions that I guess.
Yeah, there was a girl in the audience who probably the skinniest girl I've ever seen, and she had fat carved into her arm from self-harm. So I actually had to go outside. First time I've ever done that. I had to ask a security guard, "Can I step outside for a sec?" And I cried because it was that sad. It was just, I don't know.
Like, you're making these videos. What has been the response to them?
Huge. It's just they needed to see someone, because I'm obviously very happy, and if there was nobody here to talk to today, I'd probably talk to the second wall or something. But
He's not lying, seriously.
I'm not lying. I would literally talk to that wall if anyone wants to see. Oh God, my earpiece is gone. I'm sorry. They needed to see someone happy and someone that they look up to, not literally because I'm tall, but they look up to. Just talk about something like that, because it's not talked about. You don't see it on TV, really.
Because it is a young audience that you have as well. And like, do you notice a lot of other YouTubers ignoring these sort of comments that they get into them and not taking any action? Like,
yeah, they ignore it because they probably think it would affect their views or the way that people look at them. They probably think people see it as depressing to look at it themselves, to see people talk about self-harm. They just ignore it because they think, oh, geez, that's very depressing to look at, which is quite sad in a way, really.
And because you're talking about all these, sensitive topics, do you feel as if you're a role model? Do you feel that kind of pressure to, say the right thing or to your audience?
Well, there was no way in which I was just going to sit by and just go home from tour and say, I'm not going to do anything about this. Had to say something.
Because one of the reasons why was, and you mentioned it in the video itself, was you've gone through depression yourself, and a lot of people, I guess, who have been young and have gone through depression. Even you hear about people, age 12, 11, 9, 8. It's not an age-sensitive thing at all.
Exactly, that's the message I'm getting, because people think that when a 12-year-old says they're depressed, that depression doesn't exist.
Like, what do you know about life? That sort of thing.
Yeah, they think there's an age limit on depression. There's no age limit on depression. So that was the kind of message I was trying to get across. And in school, it's not a popular thing to say that you're depressed. Everyone's just going to laugh at you. So, Yeah, I dealt with depression myself, but look at me now, I'm ridiculously happy. People think I'm drunk all the time.
And he doesn't even drink. He really doesn't even drink.
And you've been on tour as well. Like, what's it like meeting everyone, you know?
Oh, it's fantastic, yeah.
Do you get like people actually, because you talked about seeing people who are affected by it and all that sort of, but do you get people actually at these gigs confiding in you or saying things like, that helped me, that
I do, yeah.
was a
They
significant
wait
moment?
until the end and they ditch their parents. 'Cause that's the thing, they won't tell their parents, but they'll tell me, which I find is very strange. They'll tell someone on the internet that they don't know.
Is that a lot of pressure? I mean, like,
yeah, it's
knowing
huge
that
pressure. But I just find it baffling that a kid would want to talk to someone that they watch the videos of before they tell their parents or a counsellor or their own friends or something. That's just the way it is now. That's how powerful the internet is.
And tell us a bit about Cupcake Not Wrists.
Cupcake Not Wrists is a charity I have set up now with the kind of power of the YouTube audience. And it's a charity I've set up. We sell wristbands, which they will obviously put on their wrist, which is good because that will stop them hopefully from cutting themselves. And all the money goes to counselling. So that's the whole idea, is to talk to someone, talk to your parents, to talk to a counsellor instead of just...
It was a huge response. Like the first day was what, 400
yeah,
sales?
we sold 400 wristbands on the first day.
It's incredible. It's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger.
It has. It has been lovely.
And of course, people can find you on YouTube. But if you want to find out more about Cupcake Not Wrists, it's the first time I got that right in one go. Rehearsal didn't go too well. Just go on to Twitter. You can find it as the hashtag or also the website Cupcakes. I knew I'd mess it up. Cupcakesnotwrists.com. Thank you so much for coming in and chatting with us.
Thank you.
But a round of applause, Brian. Right. Now, when you think about a young person in politics, you might immediately think about the professional side, but we decided to take a look at a different side of things, the personal side, and how politics has an effect on a politician and their life.
I mean, legislation should be there to ensure that there is equal citizenship, and as it stands, this the Employment Equality Act doesn't allow for equal citizenship, but this amendment will.
I mean, I never thought it was going to be a TD. If somebody had said to me at 16, look, I've seen 15 years down the road, you're going to get into politics and you're actually going to be the first TD from Ballymun, I would have said, you're joking. In this job, you have to be on top of your game. You have to know a little bit about a lot. I think just for any sort of relationship that anybody has, whether it be with your significant other or with your family, all of that is compromised once you enter into politics. And in fact, I think they're not compatible, to be quite honest with you. You essentially put your own life and everything that's in a typical person's life pretty much on hold. If you're coming home at 10, 11 o'clock every night and you have to get up quite early in the morning, you know, friends just become numbers in your phone book. I haven't been having breakfast most mornings, so I settle for a cup of tea and a cigarette, which probably isn't great, but that's usually what I have in the morning. Actually, a cup of tea and maybe 3 cigarettes, to be quite honest. I'd be lying if I said I never Googled John Lyons TD into Google. Of course I have. But I mean, sometimes you want to keep an eye on what people are actually saying about you. People sometimes think that politicians aren't human, that we don't have family members, that we don't know what it's like to have somebody in our family unemployed, that we don't know what it's like to have somebody who lives on social welfare or waiting on a medical card or waiting on a house. We're human, we have family members too, we live in communities, so we know these issues, and sometimes they're issues that we know as well as the person who comes to us over. I would genuinely ask people at times, do you honestly think that I or any other politician gets up out of bed in the morning and thinks of ways to make your life worse? Do you think that's what we do?
I was about 8 years into my teaching career, and I got a call from the principal to come up and have a chat with him, and he was embarrassed to say that somebody had anonymously written into the school to say that did you know that John Lyons was gay, and that it's not acceptable that he should be teaching in this school, and both of us were equally disappointed.
I think by me being here and being open about my sexuality and other people who do the same, I think it's very important, and I think it's a very good learning experience for other members of the house to see that we don't have scales underneath our clothes and we don't have kind of horns in the back of our heads, that we're just actually ordinary people. If you have an interest in issues and you want to do something about it, that's political. I'd say the first thing to do, if they know a local TD in their area and they're interested in that particular party, contact them. You know, there's a lot of talent needed in politics, and there's a lot of young people out there with talent. They just have to be wanting to get involved in bringing an issue to a new place whereby it's no longer an issue. And but politics is a good way and a great way of dealing with that, and I'd encourage anybody to be proactive around issues.
These days, a lot of young people are getting bad press, but it's these guys here that are trying to put it right. So, hello guys, thanks for coming. I'll just say who you are first. We've got Darren. You are the director of Startup Grind. Anya, you interned in a publishing company. Connor, you are a fashion photographer. That's really cool. And James, you are from betterexaminations.ie. So, Darren, can I come to you first? Tell us a bit about, Startup Grind.
Well, I suppose really, I came from National College of Ireland in Dublin, and I studied business. And I was lucky enough in final year to get an internship at a company called Glossy, where I worked for a company that essentially builds software and invests in new tech companies.
Yeah.
So, after a year of doing that, I was lucky to get a full-time position. And through a single tweet one day from a guy in the States, I happened to get the job of running an event in Dublin called Startup Grind that essentially brings people in the tech community together.
And tell us about the technology that's involved in it and everything.
Well, the event itself, there isn't much technology actually involved. So what we essentially do is we bring in a founder of a company or an investor once a month, and we interview them in a public forum. We've had Sean O'Sullivan from Dragon's Den. We've had Paddy Cosgrave from Web Summit and a few others as well.
Brilliant. So you're doing fantastic work there, it seems like it. James, you're from betterexaminations.ie. Now, if I can say this correctly, you are a category award for the BT Young Scientist and Technology Exhibition 2012. That's a tongue twister, and it's amazing. Like, what has been the response?
Well, winning the Young Scientist, I think my category was individual technology, and then I won the EMC award as well. That was I think doing the Young Scientist was one of the best choices in my life. Because just there's so many opportunities I've been able to, if that have followed on from it. Besides starting programming, which I did when I was about 12. So my dad bought me this book. It was called Java for Dummies. Java is the language, and it probably wasn't the best choice because it was a terrible book. But so it ensured a couple months of learning how to learn to program by making mortgage repayment programs. So that wasn't so fun, but the end results were cool.
And that led you to betterexaminations.ie.
So the Leaving Cert requires that you look over the papers constantly, and that requires you use examinations.ie, which is a really really bad website, and it's kind of really frustrating because the whole page reloads sometimes just because. So I decided to make another one called betterexaminations.ie, and I told them about it, and they don't care about the naming, so they're okay with it. So so a lot of students, a couple hundred students around Ireland have used it, and the response has been pretty good. So.
And Connor, you used your photos to get out there. Like, tell them what age you are, Connor.
I'm 17.
You're 17. That is just amazing. And how did you start up?
It was really just kind of the internet that kind of brought it about, really. I got a camera about 3 years ago, and I just started really taking kind of pictures in my spare time and stuff and uploading them online, and just kind of slowly got a response.
Yeah, and what's the reaction been? Because I said, you're young and it's a great thing to have achieved. What's the reaction been?
Well, yeah, I got a lot of support off my friends and family and stuff, and I think people are kind of fascinated as well about what I do, which is great.
And how did your photos become so well known and famous?
Well, I think it was mainly just kind of the internet, just kind of getting a following online, and Facebook, Twitter, Flickr. So yeah.
Very good. And has it been a tough road, kind of competing with the older generation, or are you hanging in there?
Yeah, well, I've gotten a lot of support off people, especially for being 17. But I'm hanging in there and just keep shooting, really.
Yeah, and I believe it or not, he's been in London Fashion Week. Ooh, yeah. So very impressive, very impressive. And Anya, you did an internship in publishing. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I did my master's in literature and publishing down in NUIG. And then I suppose I didn't really go down the emigration route like a lot of my friends, so I decided to do an internship, which meant moving up to Dublin from Mayo. So I got an internship at a contract publisher there, actually in their events department, so it helped build up my writing portfolios, doing a lot of copy editing, working on the Digital Media Awards, things like that. And then from there, I moved into the job that I am at the minute, which is a market research and editorial executive for EDCO. So I was pretty lucky, really, to get the internship that I did.
Yeah, and as you know, internships aren't paid. Was that a struggle for you? They're non-paid work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, living in Dublin for 2 months unpaid, literally living off my parents, because I mean, the way Ireland is, you can't rely on the state while you're in an internship because you have to be eligible for work. So I was working 9 to 5. I mean, that makes it impossible to get a part-time job as well, especially when you're working events because your hours are all over the place. So, I mean, there are pros and cons to it, definitely, but it is worth it in the end because, for me anyway, I made great contacts, and without that internship, I wouldn't have got the job I have now.
Yeah, and definitely I think there is pros and it's a great experience, but there's barriers, not being paid. And how did you all start up? Like, did you just come up with the idea, or did someone inspire you, James?
So for better examination study, I guess I just kind of just thought of it because examination study was so bad. I kind of always wanted to make it since like third year, and then fifth year I just kind of got around to it during the summer, and I built like this really like basic version. Just my friends in my year used it, and I've just been kind of adding stuff on since then.
Yeah, and another question for you: what would you say to people who are thinking of emigrating? Would you encourage them to stay here in Ireland and take their own initiative, Connor?
Well, yeah, I think Ireland's a great place for starting out, but I think maybe moving away is probably a good idea if you want to kind of, broaden yourself and get better opportunities and stuff.
Yeah, and for yourself, Darren, do you think there's a great young technology sector in Ireland?
I think the tech sector, especially in Dublin at the moment, is really fast moving, and like there are great events like Pitchify and Dub Starts, which is actually a job fair where students can go to try and find internships in tech startups. So I think that the opportunities are there. It's really just about, I know it's easier said than done, but about getting yourself out there and trying to act on what you want to do.
And what tips would you give to young people out there who are thinking but are a bit nervous? What tips would you give?
I suppose target your CV. I mean, even out the CV, I created 4 different ones and target them for specific industries. Don't just blanket, sort of throw your CV anywhere. Actually think about the avenue that you want to go down and just keep knocking on doors, and eventually you will get an answer.
Yeah. Great advice there. Well, thank you all for coming in. You're great inspirations to us all. And there's a lot of other budding, entrepreneurs out there as well. All of our panellists are great inspirations of what young people can do in Ireland. But people have been doing this for many, many years.
Everyone knows there is only one successful and influential young person ever in the history of everything. Thanks to Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg became a billionaire at the age of 23. But is he really the only one? No. So many crucial people in today's society have made their mark while they were still young. Bill Gates wrote his first computer program when he was 13, and Steve Jobs founded Apple when he was in his 20s. And Google. Who needs to use their brain anymore now that we've got Google? Larry Page and Sergey Brin set up Google when they were both 25 in a garage, and now the company has become so popular that we use its name as a verb. But it's not just technology. The great author Jane Austen wrote her first play at age 18, and Louis Braille started work on his alphabet for the deaf at age 15. Yet every day young people are having their ideas turned down and their job applications rejected just because of their age. It's easy to lose your motivation to try and change the world when you're constantly being told that you don't have enough experience to be, well, anything. So what about Ireland? We've had our fair share of early bloomers too. James Joyce wrote his first poem aged 9. Though nothing special about that. I was writing poems when I was 9. But none of my characters' movements have been immortalised in bronze footprints. Unfortunately, politics is one of those areas that can still seem very much out of reach. We presume the people involved think that a BlackBerry is very practical for texting, and that a tablet should be taken 3 times a day with a meal. Just because we only see images of politicians when they're older, doesn't mean that the likes of Collins, Mandela, Churchill and Lincoln weren't active in their mid-20s. Even Aranda was. Malala Yousafzai. When she was 12 years old, she wrote to the BBC detailing the Taliban suppression of girls' right to education in Pakistan. And last year, the Taliban shot her. She was 14 years old and they shot her. After being brought to the UK and undergoing extensive surgery, she survived and continues to speak out because she believes that she can make a difference. If all you did today was decide between which photos to untag and which ones to leave, or which hashtag perfects your tweet, I'm not judging you. We're young, and you should never have been photographed from that angle. But you should also know that we're all capable of so much. So the next time you don't feel experienced enough or old enough to throw yourself in the deep end, think of the young people who fought back against the stereotype to achieve incredible things, and ask yourself, what's your real excuse?
You can change the world, guys. That's it for us tonight, but you can keep the conversation going with hashtag SpunOutLive on Twitter. And don't forget to go over to the website spunout.ie for the amazing new improved website. It is incredible. You're watching it right now, of course you know.
Yeah, and thank you to all our panellists for coming in, and Catherine O'Reilly. You were brilliant.
Yeah, and we also want to thank Bri BR for coming as well, taking time out of his busy schedule. He's doing 200 plus tour dates this year.
Wow.
Ridiculous. And also thanks to all the volunteers who made tonight possible.
Definitely. Now, some exciting stuff. Playing us out, we have Soak with her amazing choice-nominated song, Sea Creatures. Good night.
The stars and moon remind me of you. I don't know what to say. It might make you worse. I don't understand what her problem is. I think she's just a fish. I know you get it, but you don't deserve this, and I won't put it up with their ignorance. And they tell you they love you, well, they don't mean it. I don't think they know what they mean. I don't think they know what love is. Throw it around like it's worthless. Don't think they know what love is. I don't get this time, neither do you. We should run away, just me and you. 'Cause I don't get the people here, they're curious, they don't really care. Sea creatures interfere, wish they would disappear. They don't know what love is. Throw it around like it's worthless. They don't know what love is. I prayed for you, and you know I don't like Jesus. Want you to get better. Please, please get better for you, for me.
Thank you.